All right, hello. How is everybody doing? Welcome to my channel. This is an educational channel, and we generally take a look at great theories of everything, and ancient and modern, and try to figure out the best way to use these things in our own lives to help us with our paradigm shifting, our awakening to 5D consciousness, and our formation of a holistic worldview. We're just starting out here, going through. We generally, at least at the start here, we've been starting with just reading text from what I consider to be, well, I guess we haven't been just reading text, but from the best theories of everything that I know of. We've gone through many episodes of the ancient Egyptian tree of life, and also 580 some videos on Dewey Larson's reciprocal system of theory. Now you'll find those videos on YouTube and also on BitChute. I'm going on to Rumble now, and so we're starting a new unit where we're looking at, I guess I'm calling it Reciprocal Church or Doubting Thomas, and we're looking at syncretic religion, West and East, maybe trying to take a look at some of the things that maybe Westerners and Western religion doesn't know about spirituality, aspects of spirituality that they kind of have dismissed because they think it's satanic or that they're going to hell or something like that. And then we're also going to take a look at the Western traditions and show some of the blatant holes and kind of red pill the Judeo-Christian religions, and not throw the baby out with the bathwater. The Western tradition and Western religions have done great things and have have aren't I don't want to just discard them, but I do want to find some truth. And to me, both the New and Old Testament are have very, very serious issues that need to be looked at, and so we will be getting to that. First, we're going to check out some things that maybe might be able to fill in some of those holes. And the first thing that we're looking at is the very comprehensive book from Daniel Ingram on Buddhism. Daniel Ingram is an American, but has spent a lot of time over in Southeast Asia at Buddhist monasteries, and he has painstakingly put together a lot of maps and maps of consciousness, things that have been passed down for thousands of years about the various jhanas, or what you would call trance states, or states of consciousness that you get into through intensive meditation. And so we're going to take over here. This is just the second day of this, and so we're reading from the preface, and he's just going over some of the background. So we'll start right here and see where we go, see where we end up. In 1994, I began going on intensive meditation retreats and doing a lot of daily practice. I also had some very odd and interesting experiences and began to look around for more guidance on how to proceed and how to keep things in perspective. Good teachers were few and far away. They're time limited and often expensive to obtain, and their answers to my questions were frequently guarded and cryptic. Even my old music friend was keeping most of what he knew to himself, and issues around disclosure of meditation theory and personal practice details nearly cost us our friendship. Frustrated, I turned to books, reading extensively, poring over texts, both modern and ancient, looking for conceptual frameworks that might help me navigate skillfully in territory that was completely outside my previous experience. Despite having access to an increasing number of great and detailed Dharma books, I found they left out lots of details that turned out to be very important. I learned the hard way that using conceptual frameworks that were too idealistic or that were not fully explained could be as bad as using none at all. Further, I found that much of the theory about progress contained ideals and myths that simply did not hold up to reality testing as much as I wanted them to. The complexities of exactly how this conflict between ideal and reality has morphed over the years are worthy of commentary, and I will discuss this later after I have set up some important terms and concepts. I also came to the profound realization that those darn Buddhists have worked a ton of good stuff out. They have come up with very simple techniques that lead directly to remarkable results if you follow instructions and titrate to the best dose for you. The essential premise that if you want to know more about something, you should pay careful attention to it has a simple, elegant brilliance. I wanted to know something essential about my experience, and so I paid a lot of attention to it and learned about it. It made sense then and still does. While some people don't like this sort of cookbook approach to meditation, I am so grateful for the recipes that words fail to express my profound gratitude for the successes they have afforded me. Empiricism has always appealed to me, and Buddhist meditation at its best allows you to see for yourself. And that's kind of the essence of why we're going over this book. I mean, this book is freely available online, and even in audio form. So the only reason I'm reading it is because I want it to be on my channel and as part of my kind of my library here on my channel, and because specifically that this is very pragmatic. This is very much of a rational approach to spirituality. You're just sitting there and you're trying to pay attention to your reality. But for some reason, many Western people in the Western tradition think that this is some kind of mumbo jumbo and that it's some kind of even satanic something or another. And I'd like an explanation, but you know, all I really get is people citing me verses from the Bible, but then if I cite them something that comes from outside the Bible, you know, they start doing fact checking on it. So, but they won't fact check their own text. So, you know, that's kind of the essence of what we're hopefully going to get at here in this unit. Thus, as promised, the simple and ancient practices of the Buddha and his followers revealed more and more of what I sought. Now, I believe, I don't know whether he says this in this book or not, I don't remember, but I'm not, you know, I'm not contending that the Buddha existed I'm definitely not contending that he's a god. To me, Buddhism is a philosophy, and it is an approach. Really, it's an approach. And I don't believe that it should be compared with, you know, any type of you know, any type of supernatural anything. It is sitting there and assessing your own experience while your consciousness goes through different very natural states of being, and you're paying attention to it and investigating those states. It has absolutely nothing to do with supernatural. It is utterly natural. Okay. I found my experiences filling in the gaps in the texts and teachings, debunking the myths that pervade the standard Buddhist dogma, and revealing the secret meditation teachers routinely keep to themselves. Finally, I came to a place where I felt comfortable writing the book that I had been looking for, the book you now hold in your hands. And I certainly wish I would have had this book, 35 years ago, but I'm very grateful to have it now. This book is for those who really want to master the core teachings of the Buddha and who are willing to put in the time and effort required. I am in the former, but not quite the latter. I really do want to master these teachings, wherever they came from, and I have not been able to set aside the kind of time and effort that I need quite yet. So, working on it. It is also for those who are tired of having to decipher the code often found in modern and ancient Dharma books. Again, Dharma is like the law, so this is a Sanskrit term that they use for the law of kind of like the Torah or something, I guess. Ancient Dharma books, as it is designed to be honest, explicit, straightforward, and rigorously technical. Like many of the commentaries on texts in the Pali Canon, it is organized along the lines of the three basic trainings that the Buddha taught: morality, concentration, and wisdom. Throughout this book, keep that in mind. Those are the three basic trainings: morality, concentration, and wisdom. Throughout this book, I have tried to be as utilitarian and pragmatic as possible. The emphasis is always on how to get it at a level that makes some difference. All sections also assume to some degree that you have a practice of some sort, hang out in some sort of spiritual scene, and know a bit of the standard Dharma lingo. All sections also assume that you are willing to do the work. I have tried to include enough information to make this book capable of standing on its own as a manual of meditation and for walking the spiritual path. However, I have also tried to focus on those areas that I consider to be my core competencies and those areas of the spiritual path that I do not feel have been adequately covered in works that have come before this one. This book shines in areas of technique, the maps of meditation, and the fine points of high-level practice. However, the spiritual life is vast beyond measure and cannot possibly be adequately covered in a single book. So I haven't even remotely tried to make this the complete encyclopedia of meditation or spiritual practices. Thus, I will often refer you to other excellent sources for more details on these topics, on those topics that I feel have already been covered quite well and probably better than I could by other authors. I strongly suggest checking out at least some, if not all, of those other sources. Like my own practice, this book is heavily influenced by the teachings of the late, great Mahasi Sayadaw, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, a Burmese meditation master and scholar in the Theravada Buddhist tradition, and by those in his lineage and outside it. There are numerous references to other excellent traditions as well, some Buddhist and some not. It is my sincere wish that all diligent students of meditation find something in this book that is of practical value to them. And it is that practical concern for functionality that I hold of greatest value. Speaking of pragmatism, there are significant downsides to having the title of this book include the name Buddha, as it will likely alienate lots of people who could benefit from the techniques and technical information about the cool, useful, and profound things that they can learn to wire their brain and to do and perceive. This dismissal, based on Uncle Sid's name, Buddha's name was Siddhartha, Uncle Sid's name might arise in groups as diverse as hyper-rational scientific materialist or fervent Southern Baptist or whatever. Also, it is likely that something in my presentation style, which has a bite at times, may cause even some Buddhists to react negatively to valuable Buddhist meditation, meditative and conceptual technology. This broader problem of brand and tribal loyalty is rife among nearly all humans. If I say something that offends you based on your rigid allegiance to your particular Buddhist, paradigmatic, or religious brand, and you then dismiss these empowering teachings and fail to employ them to your benefit, the primary loss will be yours, though the effects will likely impact those around you also. This effect is likely to become stronger the farther you proceed into this book. My apologies in advance if I tactlessly play into your knee-jerk tendencies. Okay, I think the key of that paragraph there is just the word technology. That's what we're dealing with. This is a meditation technology. This is something, like all technology, it can be used for good or it can be used for evil. It's a matter of your intention, and you can turn it into an atomic bomb, or you can use it to power the world. So this is stuff that can help you. These are techniques and technologies. You can call it whatever you want to call it. If it offends you, get over it. We have enough woke people that are easily offended out there, not to make you another one on the list. Just deal with reality. And reality is all inclusive. It includes all people, all traditions, and let's just make the best of it, right? That basic problem of sorting out the gold nuggets of the pragmatic, universal, applicable, technical, helpful, useful, and true from the dogma, proprietary branding, obscure and alienating terminology, religious craziness, ancient taboos, archaic paradigms, primitive and inaccurate biological assumptions, needlessly rigid frameworks, and other unfortunate aspects of old and new traditions is a perpetual problem. This work must be done with care and intelligence, realizing that most of the time we will not get it quite right, as whatever background we come into this task with will limit us to some degree. And this applies to me as much as anyone. So for those who can go into the old texts, traditions, techniques, communities, cultures, lexicons, and conceptual frameworks with an eye to gleaning why they got so excited about whatever it was that they were doing that they thought was so good and very likely may be in ways, there is a rich journey of discovery that awaits you. And that's why I love this book, is because this is an American who went into these Buddhist monasteries and retrieved very valuable information and put it on a silver platter for us in our own language, in our own terminology, in, taking ancient texts and putting them into modern words. And that's why I think that this is a very important book, because it gives you an insight into things that probably would be utterly inaccessible to you, because this person took the time to kind of learn their language and to put it into our language, or very close to our language. Everybody looks at language slightly differently, but, we can all communicate, in modern English. One side of me very much wants to write something that is purely secular, utterly devoid of any explicit reference to any ancient frameworks, totally scrubbed of anything religious, and free of any term that is in any way alien to the predominant linguistic sensibilities in the area of the world where I reside. Were this book free from those terms, I naively imagine that it could serve as a general textbook in schools and for scientific study without raising any red flags related to its religious and spiritual references. The other side of me rebels equally against this, knowing that for thousands of years, the vast majority of the most deeply developed, sophisticated, effective, time-tested, and refined mind training traditions and insights came straight out of the nunneries, monasteries, jungle huts, mountain caves, and from individuals practicing in frameworks of explicitly religious and spiritual traditions, the majority of whom are unlikely to have written things down in the languages you are comfortable with unless you have truly world-class linguistic abilities. There are times when there is no substitute for being able to delve into that vast, complicated, rich treasure trove of artifacts in the old traditions to find what you are looking for. Until that massive amount of theory and practice technology has been translated both linguistically and culturally, which is unlikely to happen anytime soon, we will likely exist in a strange hybrid between ancient and modern, foreign and indigenous, familiar and alien. Luckily, if you are willing to adapt the attitude of the pragmatist over that of the cultural defense warrior, either of your modern culture or of the ancient ones, then you and those in your mind training social circles can benefit from what you discover. On a different note, I have included some of my own experiences in various places and labeled them as such. This is done to try to add some sense to the reality of what is possible, both in terms of successes and failures. They should add a human dimension to the theory. However, if you find that these stories get in the way, or if they seem to have too much of the quality of, let me tell you about my personal spiritual quest, please do us both a favor and skip over them without a second thought. In this second edition, I have added a more extensive autobiographical section for those who really want more of the story. But I realize that is not everyone's cup of tea, so the main body of the theory and practice will leave much of that out and just give you the summary advice that I derive from going through it and learning about the experiences of other fellow adventurers in this amazing territory. I have also written this book in what is clearly my own voice. Those who have read this work and who know me well, or who know me, tell me that they can almost hear me saying it. I have also left in a lot of my neurotic stuff and made it as obvious as I can. I will assert that anyone who writes puts their neurotic stuff in there, even if they try to hide it. So at least you should be able to see it clearly rather than it being hidden and covert. If you want a book that is just the straight dogma and theory without this sort of voice, there are lots to choose from, and I will mention a number along the way. I've also included a modicum of social commentary, some of which has a definite bite to it. Some of you may find it not only unhelpful, but even quite distasteful and off-putting. Some of you may quickly dismiss it as harsh or wrong speech. I am torn between the feeling that there really are some important points in those sections, yet understanding that not everyone will be able to make good use of information and opinions presented in such strong terms. Thus, I ask you to please skip over those chapters and get to the friendlier or more technical sections beyond them if you don't find them helpful. To facilitate doing so, I've included a lightning bolt in the titles of those chapters that contain potentially inflammatory material so that they may be treated appropriately. And I may skip over some sections of this book for the purposes of brevity, but we'll see where we head. Okay, back to the text. While I feel that the points made in those chapters are important, valid, and useful, they are not absolutely necessary for understanding the chapters that follow them. The world is brimming with very nice and very friendly Dharma books. There are hundreds available on the shelves of any mega bookstore. However, I believe that there is room for a book that sometimes conveys its message in a different voice, though I respectfully give you the option to choose how much of that voice you want to hear. It is the unrestrained voice of one from a generation whose radicals wore spikes and combat boots rather than beads and sandals, listened to the Sex Pistols rather than the Moody Blues, wouldn't know, I would say that's kind of a caricature, but whatever, wouldn't know a beat poet or early 60s Dharma bum from a hole in the ground and thought the hippies were pretty friggin' naive. Not that we don't owe them a whole lot. It is also the unrestrained voice of one whose practice has been dedicated to complete and unexcelled mastery of the traditional and hardcore stages of the path, rather than some sort of vapid new age fluff or pop psychological head trip. If that ain't you, consider reading something else. As a highly regarded senior meditation teacher and scholar who will remain anonymous said to me after skimming through an earlier draft of this book, quote, "Most Buddhists are just aging boomers who want to do something to feel better about themselves as they get older and are not really interested in this sort of thing. I wish them, that's the end of the quote there. I wish them great success in getting those valid needs met. I must reluctantly advise such individuals to avoid reading this book, or at least the chapters marked with a lightning bolt. This is simultaneously an admission of the limitations of this work, an invitation to adopt a more empowering view of what is possible on the spiritual path, and a warning. I have also been accused of being uncompassionate because I have refused to speak and write in the soft Dharma voice that is often expected and perhaps seemingly required of people who care deeply about the Dharma. I assure you, I do deeply care that people eliminate what suffering they can by whatever skillful means necessary and available. I have a real enthusiasm for sharing these truly remarkable concepts and techniques with whoever is interested. Hence, the free online versions of the book and the free support of a forum for fellow travelers on these strange paths to share the Dharma and explore it together. Let's see where we're at here. Okay, what time for one more paragraph? I have had other motivations for writing this book. A few people have attempted to have me be their meditation teacher. I have done what I can to encourage them to practice well, go on retreats, and explore. But as soon as I get the sense that they are not really into doing the work, or are trying to idolize or deify me even in small ways, I go out of my way to return them to themselves, point out distortions caused by transference, and refer them to resources elsewhere. I greatly prefer the company of fellow adventurers who wish to explore the mysteries of this life together than any other sort of relationships, particularly those that potentially disempower one or more of the parties involved. Okay, we're going to stop right there, and we will return tomorrow and continue on this preface of Daniel Ingram's Mastering the Core Teachings of the Buddha, episode number 2 of our Reciprocal Church unit on this channel. Thanks for tuning in, and have a great day.